Hello there, Big Benedict here. We're playing Uncharted 2 Remastered on brutal difficulty, and this is my video guide and walkthrough. We're currently on chapter 2 of 26. It is entitled Breaking and Entering. So throughout the video you might see drastic little quick edits like what happened right there. It's just because I had problems as it goes with the territory in Uncharted games. You're trying to do one thing and the game interprets it as you wanting to do a different thing, such as moving in a direction or jumping off of a cliff, or trying to jump off a cliff and just hanging off of it instead. It's just one of those things that it's just one of those things that happens. So this video is longer than the previous video, and it gives me a chance to talk about the changes that occurred between the first and second game, because a lot of people ask me, or not really ask me, but they tell me that Uncharted 2 is great and all, but it's not my favorite. I don't see how people can like it so much. And the thing about Uncharted 2 is that it did for Uncharted, the franchise, what God of War 2 did for the first God of War. It raised the bar to such a level that you can't help but just be impressed by it and give it the respect that it really deserves, because it brings the game up to an 11. It elevates it to such a fantastic degree that you can't help but be amazed. I was amazed. Now, that's a subjective thing to say too, because a lot of people, even though some people might think that it was a great thing that they did with Uncharted 2, they still might not care for it too much, and that's fine. For me personally, I always notice the small things when I'm playing, like not being able to center the camera. I'm not sure why that was removed. I'm also not sure why several of the other changes that they did were implemented. For instance, one of the things you'll immediately notice if you've just come off playing Uncharted 1 is that there's now camera sway when you're aiming and you're getting hit. In the first game, there was no sway. Your aim was not compromised by enemies firing at you. Now it is. It's done for realism, I suppose, but let's face it, this isn't a realistic thing. Nobody could climb like this and mantle on things and get shot at 50 times and still survive. All it does for me is it reduces the playability of the game, and it makes it less enjoyable for me personally. Other people might respect it and like it. Again, it's subjective. Okay, now one of the things that I really struggle to understand, and it just mind boggles me, is that, remember in Uncharted 1 how when you were rolling up to cover and into cover, it wouldn't just roll you up to cover, it would roll you into cover, so that it would put you into cover without you having to press the circle button again. Well, starting in this game and continuing into the second game, and I believe into the fourth game too, when you're rolling up to cover, it only rolls you up to it. It doesn't put you in it. The only game that does that is the first game for some reason. Now you might say, is that good or bad? Well, to me it's bad, because to have to press the circle button again makes you vulnerable. And on the higher difficulties, such as brutal and crushing, you can get killed in the time between pressing the circle to get into cover and actually getting into cover. So that's one of the things that makes me the most curious. It's not the camera reset, that doesn't really make me as mind boggled as the whole rolling into cover and taking that out of the game. I have no idea why that is. And little things too, like not being able to switch your shoulders when you're aiming with a grenade. Like, why was that taken out? Because you could do that in the first one. You cannot do that in this game. Now this is going to give you a tutorial about taking cover and using the corner transition. As it says, you need to aim the analog in the direction you're going and hold the circle button. If you don't hold it, you don't stay in cover. Basically, pretty simple to understand that. Um, let's see. I'm trying to see if I have time enough to talk about these other tangents over here. Yeah, we should have time. There's one section that I want to talk about because it people might have trouble with it. I think this part is pretty self-explanatory. The first guy, he's got his back to you. The second guy, we're just going to rush when we drop down to him. So it's basically pretty simple. Now, how do you cancel out of a grenade when you have the grenade held? I'm assuming that you've got the control scheme by default for the PlayStation 4 so that you're aiming with the triggers. So with that assumed, when you are aiming with the L1 button to throw a grenade, in Uncharted 1, you could press square, triangle, or circle. Those were your three options. In this game, the primary option is triangle. So while you're holding L1, press triangle, cancels out of the throw. There's also one other thing that you can do that I know of, and that is while you're holding L1, you can press the square button to transition it into a melee attack, and that does also cancel out the grenade throw. Okay. And another thing that's pretty significantly different in this game is the shoulder swapping. In the first game, when you were aiming over your left shoulder and you dropped your aim and then you started to aim again, the perspective will default to the right shoulder perspective. With this game, it always defaults to the right shoulder. In the previous game, it defaulted to whatever shoulder you were aiming over, even if you drop your aim. So I'm gonna talk about that in a minute. Let's just quickly get through this area. The wise thing to do on this next section is not to go down the stairs, but rather to head over here to the right, and it's going to show you I'm going to show you the SWAT turn in this game. It's retained from the first game, but in this game it's more fluid. So just jump over the wall over here, and this is the SWAT turn, moving from parallel pieces of cover like that. That's the SWAT turn. It's obviously it took its cue from the Gears of War SWAT turn. Once you throw this guy over the ledge, though, take cover and then wait a second for Flynn to catch up. And then once you've given him a moment to catch up, charge one of these guys, and Flynn will take care of the other guy. But it's strange because assuming you have the shoulder swap activated, I don't know why you wouldn't. If you don't have it activated, I would say that you don't really understand the properties of playing this game functioning. You need to do it. Like, you need to be swapping your shoulders. And I'm also not going to talk about how you can't use the corner trick as much, the cover trick, because we could talk about that in the next video. But on this part over here, these guys on the second ledge up here you have to get close to them to be able to hit them. So if you're wondering why you're not hitting them, it's because you're too far away from them. It's pretty simple. But the shoulder swapping, so it always defaults back to aiming over the right shoulder. So let's just say you're moving around, you've got the shoulder perspective over the left, and you drop your aim, and then you want to aim again. You would assume that it would stay over the left shoulder, but it defaults to the right always. So that's rather a shame, I think, because remember in the last project, at some point I remarked that maybe it would be nice if you could toggle that so that, you might want to have it on or off sometimes. Well, I've come to the decision that it's better to have it retained because it's just a nuisance, it's just a nuisance to have to switch back to it. So those are some of the main mechanics that they've changed, and I guess we do have time enough to talk about the whole third-person cover trick and aiming around cover and keeping your body safe while you've got the gun reticle. outside and able to hit enemies. Starting in this game, they've made it so that the character, his profile it is sticking out of cover a little bit more, so that you can't completely use that as an advantage, and have too much of an advantage. I don't think they should have ever changed it, but you have to consider that when Naughty Dog made these games, they only made crushing difficulty. That they didn't make brutal. Bluepoint made brutal, so that maybe they did think it was too much of an advantage on crushing difficulty, because crushing really isn't that difficult compared to brutal. I remember it being difficult at the time when I was new to the game. I do remember it being hard then. I do. But with brutal, like crushing it's very, very easy. But on the bright side, you can still do it. I'm gonna be doing it. So it's just that it's not the same as it was. It's less handy, and that's all there is to it. It's the same way in the third game, same way in the fourth game, but I really don't like talking about the fourth game because I don't care for it too much. But this is how I like my Uncharted. Just, this way. I hate this. I hate the character you're with too. This Flynn guy. I don't find his character too likable at all. I know he's not supposed to be likable. And also, starting in this game, you can pull people off ledges, as you saw right there. Now, the whole jumping onto enemies from above and taking them out, that does not exist in this game. That started in the third game, if I'm not mistaken. So if you are trying to jump onto people from above, you have no option to instantly subdue them. So a little bit of a shame, but they were coming into they were trying to change so many things and add so many things that they can't do everything all the time. So anyway, we're just about wrapping up with this level. You want to head over here to the left. This guy, doesn't matter if he sees you, just combo him. When it does that slowdown right there, it means that the combo is over. And here we are. We've arrived at the destination over here. We're gonna get betrayed by Flynn. And I've never got the trophies for brutal on 2 and 3. So you will be seeing the trophies pop up. I think it's because I went through the chapter select at some points. So the previous walkthroughs that I did for brutal difficulty, even though I didn't get the trophy, all those chapters were done on brutal. I'm just not sure why. I must have done something wrong that the game didn't like. But we're definitely going to see those pop up. So that's another motivation to do that for myself. And okay, so once we rappel down into the museum area, like I said, we're going to get betrayed by Flynn, and then we're going to be running from these guys with laser sights. I think they put you down if you don't do the circle to evade. Just take a sharp right over here. For some reason, you get staggered there. And then you're going to be jumping up this window and heading on over to the second sewer that you see right over here. Do you guys know about the strange relic that you get in Chapter 5? It's in one of these sewers. I used the PS4 trophies channel again to get all 101 trophies. It's he did such a fantastic job. Brian did on getting those trophies, but that's why you won't see any of the trophies on this playthrough. So anyway, go up the ladder and you've completed Chapter 2, and then we'll get into the meat of things with Chapter 3. I believe it's called Borneo. So you guys take very good care of yourselves, and I will see you over there. Take care.